Well, I'm retired, so I describe myself now as a poet. I was a journalist. Uh, I've also been a banker. I've also owned a historic bed and breakfast and a gourmet cookie store. And I have my own public relations firm for more than 30 years. Well, I'd like to go back to my high school, which is just across the river here at La Vega High School. I was a campus newspaper editor. I also handled the literary publication, and I decided that I wanted to be a journalist. And when I came to Baylor, I changed my mind and decided I would become an actor. And after 3.5 years, a very kind professor put his arm around me and said, "You don't really belong on the stage. You might want to go back to testing and discover what your real aptitude is for." And the testing showed that I should be a children's pediatrics, a preacher, or perhaps something with writing. And so I went back to journalism. So I wound up with a major in journalism and a minor in drama and English. Well, I've been retired for 11 years, and in the field of public relations, I have many diverse clients. But in one particular section was oil and gas clients. I was doing investor relations, in which we do the communications for publicly traded companies. We help take them to the American or the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ. So that has a high level of regulation on what can be communicated, when it can be communicated, and to whom. And so working across not only that industry, but tourism, book authors, organizations, Boys and Girls Clubs of the Southwest, doing fundraising projects. It was so broad and diverse, and it provided me with an opportunity, I will call it tasting, to taste various industries, various occupations. Quite often, I would be telling men in the C-suites, CEOs, CIOs, CTOs, how to handle an ambush interview, how to speak to an audience that was predominantly women, because it's different than when you speak with a co-ed audience. And they're running billion-dollar companies. I had one defense electronic company in which I was the vice president, the corporate manager of media relations. And when I joined them, they had a $500 million backlog of business. This was the 1970s. When I left them, they had $1 billion backlog. And we had sensitive information. I had classified clearance due to my service in the military, U.S. Army. And so all of these experiences were like going to a state fair where you see so many different things and opens your eyes and broadens your view of life and of the world. And to me, that's what journalism has provided. There's a sign on the wall in this room right here. It says, "Research driven by compassion, curiosity, and courage." You think on that for a moment. Curiosity. Media and representatives of the media are now being characterized as villains. You will lose your private property. Who's going to pay for that? Should you have a gas mask with you? Should you have something to wash your eyes out with? All of these things are not what you can teach between the time it says 1,000 people are on the courthouse steps. Go. You can't teach that in the time that they leave the office to go to that site. And we want to keep our best journalists. I want to keep all journalists safe.
Yes.
So one reason I joined the board is, again, I reflect back as a student reporter for the Baylor Lariat, writing about Friday night football for the Wacoan News Tribune. And all of this was a stepping process to covering stories that I covered within a year after graduating. The first heart transplant in Texas, the first double lung, the first artificial heart, the first pig's heart. I covered all of those within a year and a half. I covered Apollo 8 through Apollo 14 space shots, specialized in the families. Serial killings, a massive plane crash in East Texas.
A little bit of everything.
Everything. It means literally growth and adventure. I mean, when I was a student, I left the bookstore one day and there were people rappelling off one of the buildings. What? I'm thinking 1966, 1967.
Mm-hmm.
It was the beginning of the Peace Corps, and students wanted to work for the Peace Corps and needed to know how to rappel. So it's discovery. It's discovering who you are and where you fit and what you have to contribute. And that's important. As Christians, as a person of faith, it's not just what we do for ourselves. It's what we do beyond ourselves and for others. And that often takes courage. And what I found here was courage to be who I was and to try new things. You would think after my 3+ years at the Department of Theater Arts, that was not essentially a defining moment, but changed me. And I realized that I could fail and start again. I mean, look back to Europe 1,600 years ago. You're a preteen or a teenager and you're apprenticed to a one craft. Maybe it's carpentry, maybe it's plumbing.
Yeah.
And you couldn't change. And here we are, and I'm talking 60 years ago, and I've found different ways to use my communications and my acting skills. And I must say that my acting skills that I learned served me everywhere. You're 5'5" and you march up to a 6-foot CEO who makes more money going to the bathroom than you do in a month. And you have to be bold. And you have to have bold ideas to change people's minds, or to say, no, you can't say that. That's not true. And that will come back on you. There's so many memories here that take. But I came back to campus 10 years ago and proposed that we do a playwriting festival. And the idea bumped around, and then we underwrote 3.5 years of research. I handed out the Kirk Prize in Baylor New Play Initiative and Playwriting Festival, $15,000 to a playwright from New Jersey. And we had vetted with 13 collaborating theaters in Texas, 70 plays down to 4. And they were all performed here professionally on the stage with 40 actors.
Wow.
And so it's a time for giving back. I'll disclose that I'm 80 years old, if everyone hasn't done the math already. This is only one of our 3 major legacy projects. And now I'm in a position to see some of those come true. So don't let a fork in the road change you from perhaps retreating and going the other direction, or coming back and starting again. Integrity. Do not trade your integrity for anything. If you have to tell an employer, this is wrong, this is not true, I am not going to write that for you, and sometimes you will be appreciated for it. And sometimes you will lose a high-paying job. I did. But I wasn't willing to go out and say that. And I was escorted to my office by 2 officers and had to leave within 2 hours. But then I founded my own agency. I worked for myself for 33 years. And I worked with billion-dollar corporations. So sometimes the sharp turn in the road is the right turn in the road. So do not despair when things look like they're going south. Just go north.